Shalom, everybody, and to those that are listening online in the future. We just love to worship Yahweh, and we just want to give you all the praise. Abba, we just love you. And so today, He's faithful to give another song to the scripture, and it's from the Septuagint is Psalm 72. And I encourage you on your own time to read the whole psalm. I've taken a few verses, and hopefully it sort of gives you the whole theme of it. But really what it comes down to, and I'm so blessed that there's young people here in this room, it's just getting ourselves to that place, and it's a continual asking of softening our heart to just the things of you, Yahweh, and wanting to know you more. And that continually every day, and even every moment by moment, and every detail of our lives, that we're surrendering to Him and placing Him above all, and that He's truly our desire above all things. And there's lots of great things that He blesses us with here, but that He's always first. And so with that context and with that heart, I just encourage you to make this a prayer. All these scriptures, it's the most beautiful thing to pray prayers out of this. We don't even need to think of new words to pray. We can just declare scripture in our lives, His truth, His promises. And if He's not number one, only He knows our hearts. I just ask that even right now, we will just surrender that to you, Yah, that you will be number one in our heart right now.
Continually with thee, you have guided me by your counsel.
of it, just start singing along. But keep making it your prayer in your heart. Continue to transform my heart, Yahuwah. It's so easy to get distracted in this world. What have I in heaven but you? What have I desired upon the earth beside you? My heart and my flesh have failed, but Elohim is the strength of my heart. What have I in heaven but you? What have I desired upon the earth beside you? My heart and my flesh have failed, and Yahweh is my portion forever. What have I in heaven but you? What have I desired upon the earth beside you? My heart and my flesh have failed, but Elohim is the strength of my heart. What have I in heaven but you? What have I desired upon the earth beside you? My heart and my flesh have failed, and Yahweh is my portion forever. Yet I am continually with thee. You have held my right hand and have taken me to yourself with glory. Yet I am continually with thee. You have guided me by your counsel. You have taken me to yourself with glory. We worship you. We worship you. We exalt you. We exalt you in our lives. It is good. It is good for me to cleave close to Elohim, to put my emunah in Yahweh, that I may proclaim all your praises. It is good for me to cleave close to Elohim, and put my emunah in Yahweh, that I may proclaim all your praises, that I may proclaim all your praises, that I may proclaim all your praises in the gates of the daughter of Zion. We praise you, Yah. I know your desire for us is that we want to know you more. Sometimes our feelings have to catch up. We have to make that choice first. We choose you, we want to know you. We choose to hunger and thirst for you, Yahweh. Thus is Yahweh. Thus is Yahweh. Thus is Yahweh. Thus is Yahweh. Sing it one more time. Thus is Yahweh. Thus is Yahweh. Thus is Yahweh. exercising loving kindness, righteousness, and judgment in the earth. For in these things I delight, says Yah. Oh, exercising loving kindness, righteousness, and judgment in the earth. For in these things I delight, says Yah. Oh, oh, oh. cross, you're so tough. Even when we fail, when our faith falls short, when we're looking at circumstances around us, instead of keeping our eyes on you and walking in obedience in your truth. Forgive us for those times, Yah. We declare your praise right now. We just say you are wonderful. You are the authority over our lives. We worship you. We worship you. There's no fruit on the vines, there's no produce, no olives, no food in the fields at all, no sheep or oxen in pasture and stall. Yet I will exalt in Yahweh. Yet I will exalt in Yahweh. Yet I will. Though the fig tree bears no fruit, on the vines there's no produce, no olives, no food in the field at all, no sheep or oxen in pasture and stall. Yet I will exalt in Yahweh. Yet I will exalt in Yahweh. Yet I will. I will joy in the authority of your salvation. Yahweh Elohim is my strength. I will joy in the authority of your salvation. Yahweh Elohim is my strength. Though the fig tree bears no fruit, on the vines there's no produce, no olives, no food in the field at all, no sheep or oxen in pasture and stall. Yet I will exalt in Yahweh. Yet I will exalt in Yahweh. Yet I will joy in the authority of your salvation. Yahweh Elohim is my strength. I will joy in the authority of your salvation. Yahweh Elohim is my strength. He will perfectly strengthen my feet. Upon high places he mounts me. He makes me to walk on high hills. That I may conquer by his song. That I may conquer by his song. I may conquer by worshiping you, Abba Yah. He will perfectly strengthen my feet. Upon high places he mounts me. He makes me to walk on high hills. That I may conquer by worshiping you. wisdom, Yabba Yah. Yahweh has taught me wisdom, and I know the knowledge of the holy. Yahweh has taught me wisdom, and I know the knowledge of the holy. Yahweh has taught me wisdom, and I know the knowledge of the holy. Yahweh has taught me wisdom, and I know the knowledge of the holy. Who has gone up to heaven and come down? Who has gathered the winds in the fold of his robe? Who has wrapped up the water in a garment? Who has dominion of all the ends of the earth? What is his name? What's his name? Or the name of his children? What is his name? Yahweh, Yahweh. What is his name? Or the name of his children? What is his name? For all Yah's words are tried in the fire, and he defends those that reverence him. Not to his words lest he reprove you, you'll be made a liar. For all Yah's words are tried in the fire, and he defends those that reverence him. And not to his words lest he reprove you, you'll be made a liar. We know the seriousness of those words, Abba Yah, and we just ask continually that you will teach us your wisdom, your truth, your ways, your statutes, your ordinances, because they are pure, they are righteous. We want to be set apart for you, set apart in your truth. Abba Yah. Oh Yahweh, our Yahweh. program our lives to you. I have lifted up my soul to you. I have lifted up my soul, oh Yahweh, to you. I have lifted up my soul. We are continuing to enter into your gates. Let's make sure I got that on the right one. No, I don't. Try that again. Not yet. We can make a joyful noise once I get the tempo. Sorry about this. Okay, everybody, put your hands together. So this is Psalm 100, Psalm 99 in the Septuagint. Joyful noise. Come on, make a joyful noise. Make a joyful noise. Make a joyful noise. Come on, let's do it again. Make a joyful noise. Make a joyful noise. Here we go. Make a joyful noise to Yahweh, all the earth. Make a joyful noise. Make a joyful noise to Yahweh, all the earth. Make a joyful noise. Serve joyful noise. Here we go. Make a joyful noise to Yahweh, all the earth. Make a joyful noise. Make a joy. One more time. Make a joyful noise to Yahweh, all the earth. Make a joyful noise. Serve Yahweh with gladness. Come before His presence with exaltation, with exaltation. Serve Yahweh with gladness. Come before His presence with exaltation. Know that Yahweh is Elohim. He made us and not we ourselves. Know that Yahweh is Elohim. We are His people and the sheep of His pasture. Enter into His gates with thanksgiving and His courts with hymns. Give thanks to Him and praise His name. Enter into His gates with thanksgiving and His courts with hymns. Give thanks to Him and praise His name. One more time. Enter into His gates with thanksgiving and His courts with hymns. Give thanks to Him and praise His name. One more time. Enter into His gates with thanksgiving and His courts with hymns. Give thanks to Him and praise His name. For Yah is Tov. His mercy is forever and His truth endures to generations. Yahweh is Tov. His mercy is forever and His truth endures to generation and to generation. One more time. Make a joyful noise. Make a joyful noise. Make a joyful noise. Make a joyful noise. Make a joyful sound. Make a joyful whisper. Chicka, 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 ah. Thank you, Yahweh, that you give us so much joy when we just worship you. And we want all the practice we can get up to when we get to be in your presence. So continue to just guide us and help us to go deeper in your truth today, and just know you more through everything else today. In your name, through Yahweh. Yahushua. Amen. Amen.
Thank you, Davene, for the songs of praise. As the wind blows, it gets us through the days. Good night, everyone. Thanks once again for being a part of the TeamD scripture study. And tonight we are in Genesis chapter 24.
And rhyming is always free.
And
The place to be.
tonight we are titling this chapter, A Wife for My Beloved Son, and this is part 1. So there is more to this to look forward to, as this chapter is very long and detailed in what is taking place here. So, in the news, The Choice Is Not Mine is the title of this headline, and it's giving context to what we're going to be talking about tonight. What about love for real? Love the one who loves you and love them back. Make them your spouse and live happily ever after. Arranged marriages are not an ancient custom only, but a critical aspect of many ethnic groups in current day society. It is still widely practiced in India and so-called Middle East and among their diaspora earthwide. And worldwide is not correct anymore. We have to be more politically correct with our words, so it's earthwide.
Earthwide.
Monarchies across Europe encourage arranged marriages for political reasons and affluent families to strengthen business ties. Whatever the intended purpose, arranged marriages are still alive and well.
The Sydney Morning Herald. I agreed to marry a man I'd met only once, is the title, by Kia Abdullah, September 29th, 2019. I can barely remember what I wore on the day, but I know I felt delicate and powerless, like an exquisite, inanimate doll. If I moved my head an inch, the sari pinned to my hair would pull, and so I sat there, silent and still. My face was a mask of makeup, 2 dark brows over 2 light skin, my lips muted to not look obscene. My neck was adorned with jewels, and my ears dripped with gold. I had to pierce them specifically for this, and I remember thinking it has literally put holes in me. The doorbell rang, and strangers' voices filled my home. A socket of dread opened in my chest. But I did not speak or move. I declined to meet a dozen suitors and could no longer plead for patience. Someone neatened my sari. It was cream, I think, and impossibly heavy, and led me from the room. I look back at that day now over a decade ago with a sense of incredulity. I was a strong-willed 24-year-old, the only one of 7 siblings to graduate from university. I'd studied computer science, a starkly male-dominated course that taught me to be assertive, and then joined the Wolfson Institute of Preventative Medicine in London to work for a prominent scientist. I had a bright expanse of life ahead of me. At the same time, I still lived in East London with my parents, as is tradition in Bangladeshi culture, and regarded arranged marriage as a distant but inevitable fixture. I had dated surreptitiously at university, but my ex was of Pakistani heritage, and we broke up after graduation, knowing my parents would not approve. My 3 older sisters had arranged marriages to Bangladeshis, and it was an unspoken fact that I would too. There is a high success rate for arranged marriages because there is more to it than just pairing 2 strangers together. But there are those who may find it to be an outdated practice. But with marriage, let the Most High Elohim be a part of every detail to make it a success.
Hooray.
Hooray.
And I know some people, if they have their way, all marriages would be arranged. But that's a discussion for another day. So continuing, what this study is all about, just a reminder that we are here to learn, to encourage, and to just take in the words of our Elohim and practice it in our lives each day. And last of all, always to respect each other. We're not here to make any type of debates or anything. Yeah. Just let's learn together and make the best of it. So we are in Genesis chapter 24 and verse 1.
And Abram was old, advanced in days, and Yahweh blessed Abram in all things.
Yahuwah, and this section is blessed, Yahuwah, the giver of good things. By today's standards, a blessing can be many things. In some instances, in order to get a blessing, you have to sow something. Plant a seed, get $1 million back. What does it truly mean to be blessed by biblical standards? After all, when the promises were made to Abraham, he was told, and this is from Genesis 12:13.
3.
Sorry.
And I will bless those that bless thee, and curse those that curse thee, and in thee shall all the tribes of the earth be blessed.
Yay! What a promise. What does it really mean to be blessed? So the word is barak, and it typically means to bless or kneel. The meaning of blessing. There are several definitions of blessed in the English language, according to the Oxford Advanced Learners Dictionary. Means to be made holy, consecrated, endowed with divine favor and protection, bringing pleasure or relief as a welcome contrast to what one has previously experienced. So it has many meanings depending on the context at which you look at it. The Greek definition of the word blessed comes from Makarios, if I pronounce that correctly. This describes a believer as being in an enviable position of receiving God's provision, in brackets favor, as being an extension of His grace. This happens with receiving the Lord's inherited in birthings of faith, and in brackets, helps word studies. I admit these definitions somewhat surprise me. Growing up in Western culture, I have most commonly heard the phrase "I'm blessed" in reference to good fortune, a desired outcome, or comfort. In fact, I myself have often used it in this way. So this excerpt from a discussion is just giving what a lot of people typically think it means to be blessed. And that's coming from that Greek perspective. So continuing on, what does it mean to be blessed?
The pictographic meaning of barak. When studying any Hebrew word, it's in pictographic form. You must understand its symbols to understand its meaning. In the case of the word barak, it has three symbols, K, R, and B. Before we go over the symbols, let me first inform you that the Hebrew language is read from right to left as opposed to how we read it from left to right in English. Now let's go over the symbols. The first symbol to the far right, which represents the letter B, is supposed to be a symbol of a house, tent, and family, because the Hebrews were nomadic families who lived in tents. The second symbol in the middle means the R letter and is supposed to be a symbol of the head of a man, which is symbolic of the man being the head of the household. The third symbol represents the letter K and is supposed to be a symbol of the open palm of one's hand, which is symbolic of giving or receiving. When you put all of this together from a Hebrew perspective, this word means to give or receive an inheritance, in brackets house, family, land, or other natural resources of value. Well, there are more elaborate definitions for this word. This is the general meaning of barak.
Abraham was blessed in every aspect of life, but not immune from every challenge of it. He was victorious in battle. He had protection from his enemies, a fruitful house, favor among men, and most importantly, favor from Yahuwah Elohim. So, continuing on, verse 2 to 4.
And Abraham said to his servant, the elder of his house, who had rule over all his possessions, "Put your hand under my thigh, and I will adjure you by Yahuwah, the Elohim of heaven, and the Elohim of the earth, that you take not a wife for my son Isaac from the daughters of the Canaanites, with whom I dwell in the midst of them. But you shall go instead to my country where I was born and to my tribe, and you shall take from there a wife for my son Isaac."
A wife, and this is tying up a loose end. This is very interesting. The elder servant has rulership over Abraham's house. How come it is not his beloved son Isaac? It was established in the last study that Isaac was 36 years old when his mother took her final breath. He is old enough to take a leading role in his father's tent. But this servant had the authority. Who can this servant be? It can most likely be Eliezer, and we discussed about the Eliezer back in Genesis 15, where Abraham was lamenting he didn't have an heir, and you were saying this servant of his could be his heir.
So Genesis 15:2, and Abram said, "Master and Lord, what will you give me, whereas I am departing without a child? But the son of Masech, my homeborn female slave, this Eliezer of Damascus, is my heir."
He was a potential heir to Abraham if he did not gain a son out of his loins. But both Ishmael and Isaac filled that gap, with the latter being beloved son of promise. Abraham had two sons who seemed to share much in common. Their respective mothers seemed to have a lot of sway in their lives. Ishmael's mother chose his wife from among her people. If Sarah was still alive, she might have done the same for her son. After all, it seemed he was living in his mother's tent.
And for an important loose end to be tied up for Abraham, it would be prudent to have your most competent resource taking charge of the situation. Additionally, Abraham was not willing to take this project on because he left his father's house behind him, and his father is still potentially alive in Haran, based on both the Masoretic and Septuagint timelines. If this is the case, he may not want to have such or much interaction with Terah, and also being obedient to Yahuwah about leaving his father's house.
Hence, the timeline is very important. You see these details unfolding. So continuing, tying up the loose end. Abraham is seeking to get a wife for his son Isaac, and is tasking his trusted servant with the operations and logistics. So the Hebrew word for wife is Isha, and the male is Ish. So it's just when you hear people say my Isha, you know what they're talking about. It's their wife. And there is Isaac looking on with the servant getting the instructions. But he asked him to do something strange before accepting the challenge. he, Eliezer, is to place his hand on the thigh of his master Abraham and swear an oath. And to swear is Shaba, not Shabarangs, but Shaba, and it's to swear or to adjure. And the thigh, which is Yarek, loin or base. And question, what did oaths involve putting a hand under someone's thigh?
Answer. In our culture, taking an oath usually involves raising the right hand or placing a hand over the heart or on a Bible. In ancient Hebrew culture, we find something a little different. Genesis 24:9 describes an odd practice that involved Abraham's servant swearing to obey his master's command to find a wife for Isaac. So the servant put his hand under the thigh of Abraham, his master, and swore to him concerning this matter. In Genesis 47:29, Jacob makes his son Joseph swear to bury him in Canaan, not Egypt. The same ritual is observed. Joseph is required to put his hand under Jacob's thigh as he makes the promise. It seems strange to us, but placing one's hand under someone else's thigh had a symbolic purpose. In both cases, the request is made by a patriarch nearing death. Also, both oaths deal with family matters. In the case of Abraham and Jacob, the family was blessed by Elohim himself. The thigh was considered the source of posterity in the ancient world, or more properly, the loins or the testicles. The phrase under the thigh could be a euphemism for on the loins.
And this is where the word testament comes from. And thus the New... Yep. Yeah. Thus the New Testament, which does not appear anywhere in the New Testament. But a little unknown fact that a lot of people are not aware of. So you're making a testament, but let's leave that alone. Okay, so continuing to tie up loose ends, making an oath.
But he asked him to do something strange before accepting the challenge. He allows us to place his hand on the thigh of his master Abraham and swear an oath.
Right, so we are looking at oath taking here. Very controversial. So question, why did oaths involve putting a hand under someone's thigh? Did I repeat this? No, this is different here.
Okay. There are two reasons why someone would take an oath in this manner. Number one, Abraham had been promised a seed by Elohim, and this covenantal blessing was passed on to his son and grandson. Abraham made his trusted servant swear on the seed of Abraham that he would find a wife for Isaac. Number two, Abraham had received circumcision as a sign of the covenant. In chapter 17:10, our custom is to swear on a Bible. The Hebrew custom was to swear on circumcision, the mark of God's covenant. The idea of swearing on one's loins is found in other cultures as well. The English word testify is directly related to the word testicles. Let's dovetail the discussion to making oaths. There is much controversy about whether it is right to make an oath or swear.
So again, not me. This is where the word comes from. I didn't make it up, but it's there for you to look into. So let's dovetail into this discussion here about taking oaths. So Matthew chapter 5, verse 33 to 37.
Again, you have heard that it has been said by them of old time, you shall not forswear yourself, but shall perform unto Yahweh your oaths. But I say unto you, swear not at all, neither by heaven, for it is Elohim's throne, nor by earth, for it is his footstool, neither by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. Neither shall you swear by your head, because you can't make one hair white or black. But let your communication be yes and yes, or no and no, for whatsoever is more than these comes of evil.
So what is the Anointed One really saying here about taking an oath? Is it just because we don't know the consequences of it, or it's an archaic thing to do and you would sin by doing it? We could look at this from many ways, but the key phrase in the Anointed One statement is them of old time. What does that mean? Who is the them, and what does the context of what is the whole context of making an oath? That's a very good question. And then we'll get back to let your yea be yea or your nays be nays in taking oaths. So before clarifying what the Anointed One was addressing, the third commandment on this issue, yes, he was addressing the third commandment on this issue. This New Testament provision against swearing is connected to this commandment because a lot of people think it says something different, but this is me paraphrasing here.
And this is context.
Yeah.
You shall not make false use of the name of Yahweh, your Elohim. For I would not leave guiltless the man who misuses my name.
So the key thing here is his name and how it is used and what its intended use is. The issue here at hand is Yahuwah's name and embedding it into your wickedness. So there are a lot of things people tend to do, and they like to swear by God, I did this, and it ends up being something wicked, and this is where the problem comes in.
And I would say it's even bigger than just that. Like, it really is. You say that you're repping Yahuwah's name, and yet you're living wickedness or iniquity. And that's what this is really about.
An example of this was recorded by the prophet Jeremiah. So this is Jeremiah 41 in the Septuagint and 34 in the Masoretic, from 14 to 16.
When 6 years are accomplished, you shall set free your brother the Hebrew, who shall be sold to you, for he shall serve you 6 years, and then you shall let him go free. But they hearkened not to me, and inclined not their ear. And this day they turned to do that which was right in my sight, to proclaim every one the release of his neighbor. And they had concluded a covenant before me in the house whereon my name is called. But you turned and profaned my name, to bring back every one his servant and every one his handmaid, whom you had set forth free and at their own disposal, to be to you men servants and maidservants.
So one thing I should have bold as well is the covenant part. That's very key. So in making that covenant, 10 to 1, they swore by his name. And then, to make matters worse, instead of they keeping that covenant, they went back on their word.
Yeah,
You profane.
they're repping, they're so-called repping Yahweh.
Yep, so that's the challenge. The point being, do not let the name of Yah get caught up in your shenanigans. The Anointed One elaborated further on this. So this is from Matthew 23, 13 to 22.
But woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For you shut up the kingdom of heaven against men, for you neither go in yourselves, neither suffer you them that are entering to go in. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For you devour widows' houses, and for a pretense make long prayer. Therefore you shall receive the greater damnation. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For you compass sea and land to make one proselyte. And when he is made, you make him twofold more the child of hell than yourselves. Woe unto you, you blind guides, which say, Whosoever shall swear by the temple, it is nothing. But whosoever shall swear by the gold of the temple, he is a debtor.
And that's the key thing there. They swore, and they put his name to it, and they have all the rules embedded with how to swear. But the key thing here is them. The Pharisees, they are the hypocrites. They created these rules, and unfortunately the people weren't abiding by what the Most High said in regards to his instructions. So read Jeremiah chapter 41 in its context, and you'll see exactly what is taking place for this situation to be pronounced upon them.
So that's on your own time.
Yeah. So we are still tying up a loose end. The point being, do not let the name of Yah get caught up in your shenanigans.
You just wanted to say that word one more time.
Yeah, shenanigans.
Shenanigans.
The Anointed One elaborated on this further with...
Okay. You fools and blind, for whether is greater, the gold or the temple that sanctifies the gold? And whosoever shall swear by the altar, it's nothing. But whosoever swears by the gift that's upon it, he is guilty. You fools and blind, for whether is greater, the gift or the altar that sanctifies the gift? Whoso therefore will swear by the altar swears by it, and by all things thereon. And who shall swear by the temple swears by it, and by him that dwells therein. And he that shall swear by heaven swears by the throne of Elohim, and by him that sits thereon.
And this is Ezekiel 36:20.
And when they came to the nations into which they came, they profaned my holy name, and that men said of them, These are the people of Yahuwah, and they are gone out of his land.
So the point being with Matthew is they're making up their rules for swearing. And if something is sanctified and you're swearing, does it not make it holy? That's the whole point. And we can even make an argument for the name of the Most High. You know, the context is, we can't swear by his name, it's too holy. So let's use a placeholder for his name. So we say, let's use Hashem, let's use the Lord. By the same, or Adonai, by the same context, if he is holy and his name is holy, even by extension using a replacement
title.
or title should make it holy, and we should not be able to pronounce his name either, by that same logic. But
So it's really important to get the context of what's being said in Scripture,
right.
because that's not what's being said at all.
No.
We are to say His name.
we are to vow, but again, if you're going to make a vow and it's not legitimate, let your yes be yes and your no be no. Don't swear, you'll get into trouble.
Yeah.
And the Most High is going to hold you accountable for it.
And it just goes to show, too, I mean, we should be, as examples, we should keep our word. You know, when we say we're going to do something, do it. And stuff.
Right.
That's part of that. Yes and yes, no and no.
Yeah. So swearing or making oaths to Yahuwah Elohim is not a sin. Not carrying them out and wickedly using his name towards your actions is the problem. Swear to Yahuwah. Make psalms to his name. And this is Psalm 63:11.
But the king shall rejoice in Elohim. Every one that swears by him shall be praised. For the mouth of them that speak unjust things have been stopped.
And this is from Deuteronomy 6:13.
You shall fear Yahuwah your Elohim, and him only you shall serve, and you shall cleave to him, and by his name you shall swear.
So I don't think the Most High is bipolar. If he says to do something, do it. The problem is when we make up the rules surrounding doing something, this is where we run into
Man-made
problems.
stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I would still advise people, if you know you're not going to keep your word, don't do it.
Don't.
Yeah. In this generation, there are three major decisions to be made. 1, a home purchase. 2, what to believe. And 3, the spouse you choose.
I would change the order of that. But anyways,
Yeah.
yes.
Abraham took charge of the third because Isaac had the other two covered. Lots of marriages have ended in failure because many issues too numerous to mention, and finance is one of them. We can name a couple other things. Additionally, with Isaac's emotional state, he would need some guidance on the matter. Abraham wanted to ensure that his son's wife was in every way compatible with him. Thus, getting intel about his family back in Mesopotamia meant that he kept the matter in mind and waited for the right opportunity to tie up the loose end. So hence the last chapter, when he got all the news about, what's happening with his family, very important. And if you want to learn more about oaths, the rabbinic way, you can visit that link and it will give you a list of swearing and how to do it.
And when we're giving you that information, we're just presenting the information. We do not adhere to that.
Right. Just to show you it exists. It's not in a vacuum.
Yeah.
So verse 5-7.
And the servant said to him, Shall I carry back your son to the land where you came forth, if haply the woman should not be willing to return with me to this land? And Abraham said to him, Take heed to yourself that you carry not my son back here. Yahuwah, the Elohim of heaven and the Elohim of the earth, who took me out of my father's house and out of the land whence I sprang, who spoke to me and who swore to me, saying, I will give this land to you and to your seed. He shall send his angel before you, and you shall take a wife to my son from there.
A messenger goes before you. And much of what we are going to discuss here, we spoke about it with Sodom and Gomorrah. It's important to reiterate it again. Never look back. Never, ever, 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 ever look back. And from Luke, chapter 17, 29-32.
But the same day that Lot went out of Sodom, it rained fire and brimstone from heaven, and destroyed them all. Even thus shall it be in the day when the Son of Man is revealed. In that day he which shall be upon the housetop, and his stuff in the house, let him not come down to take it away. And he that is in the field, let him likewise not return back. Remember Lot's wife.
Lot's wife would have been of the people of Sodom, as we spoke of, Sodom and Gomorrah, and her heart was still entangled with it, with its culture. Abraham was taken out of it. Though his family are aware of the true Elohim, they still choose to subject themselves to idol worship. And Ruth, which we discussed, one of Lot's descendants, never looked back. And this is Ruth 1, 16-17.
And Ruth said, Entreat me not to leave you, or to return from following you. For whithersoever you go, I will go, and wheresoever you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your Elohim my Elohim. And wherever you die, I will die, and there will I be buried. Yahuwah, do so to me, and more also, if I leave you, for death only shall divide between me and you.
Abraham does not want his beloved son to get entrapped. Hence, the Most High leading him out of his father's house. Abraham is holding on tight to the promises made to him. After all, his beloved son Isaac stands before him, who his wife bore at 90 years, a promise from Yahuwah Elohim. But to prosper his servant's way, he is told that Yahuwah's angel would go ahead of him. Very important. A messenger goes before you, the promise. Yahweh Elohim sends his messenger angel ahead of us to clear the path. So this is from Exodus 23, 20 to 21.
And behold, I send my angel before your face, that he may keep you in the way, that he may bring you into the land which I have prepared for you. Take heed to yourself, and hearken to him, and disobey him not, for he will not give way to you, for my name is on him.
So that's one instance of an angel going ahead, and eventually when we get to that passage in Exodus, we'll exploit some more. And this is from Isaiah 45, 1 to 3.
Thus says Yahuwah Elohim to my anointed Cyrus, whose right hand I have held, that nations might be obedient before him, and I will break through the strength of kings. I will open doors before him, and cities shall not be closed. I will go before you, and will level mountains. I will break to pieces brazen doors and burst iron bars, and I will give you the treasures of darkness. I will open to you hidden, unseen treasures, that you may know that I, Yahuwah your Elohim, that call you by name, am the Elohim of Israel.
When I was looking up this passage, I realized there is more to this going on than I think a lot of us understands. And who knows, this could be a future fulfillment as well.
I think it's a near and a far. Yeah.
And then Malachi 3:1.
Behold, I send forth my messenger, and he shall survey the way before me, and Yahuwah whom you seek shall suddenly come into his temple, even the angel of the covenant, whom you take pleasure in. Behold, he is coming, says Yahuwah Almighty.
Yes, the angel of the covenant, very important. It's a deep topic. And a lot of it tends to be overlooked. But who is this angel of the covenant? What's this covenant all about? A topic for another time. So for those who put their trust in Yahuwah Elohim and humble themselves to his authority, his messenger goes before them. Yahuwah Elohim had brought his righteous servant this far. Yahuwah Elohim's word does not return to him void either. A promise made by Yahuwah is a promise kept. Yep. All of us who trust in him can hold his word as insurance.
And assurance too.
Each day of our walk with him. This holds true for every aspect of your life.
Every detail.
So verse 8.
And if the woman should not be willing to come with you into this land, you shall be clear from my oath, only carry not my son there again.
So a condition, you are off the hook. His servant is partially off the hook from the oath that is sworn if one condition is not met. In quotes, if the woman does not wish to return with you, then my servant, you did your best. But if Abraham is to die and the servant continues to run his house, he is never to take the beloved son back to the land of his birth. It is important not to take his son back, because Abraham is very aware of the condition of the people and his family back in the land. One of the best ways to overcome a situation in life is to distance yourself and separate from it. The influence of idolatry is very strong in any society. And this is from an article Must Reads, how millennials, how they replaced religion with astrology and crystals.
By Jessica Roy, Audience Engagement Editor, July 10th, 2019. One of the big draws for younger people about spiritual practices is the ability to pick and choose, says Jim Burklow, a progressive Christian reverend who works with college students as the Senior Associate Dean of the Office of Religious and Spiritual Life at USC. Spiritual practices appeal to the commitment wary. You can get a little into crystals or astrology or tarot, or a lot into it. You can buy a few rose quartzes or light a few candles, and if it's meaningful for you, keep it. If not, it's not like you went through a full religious conversion.
Now, here's a key word in this excerpt. A progressive Christian reverend. When you hear progressive, run. That's you can do anything you want, grace will cover it, and you'll be fine. That's more or less what it's saying here. So it's giving you an entryway to do whatever you want, and hence again bringing his name into disrepute.
Yeah.
The two don't go together. Israel was warned about following the ways of the nations, but did not take heed to those warnings. And this is from Judges 2:1-3.
And an angel of Yahweh went up from Gilgal to the place of weeping, and to Bethel, and to the house of Israel, and said to them, Thus says Yahweh, I brought you up out of Egypt, and I brought you into the land which I swore to your fathers. And I said, I will never break my covenant that I have made with you. And you shall make no covenant with them that dwell in this land, neither shall you worship their gods, but you shall destroy their graven images. You shall pull down their altars, but you hearken not to my voice, for you did those things. And I said, I will not drive them out from before you, but they shall be for a distress to you, and their gods shall be to you for an offense.
And the reason why I chose this passage, because again, here's an angel who went ahead of them and is now confronting them with their actions. So Israel did not heed the warning, neither from Moses, neither from Joshua, and now they're into another stage in their existence, and they still did not take the warning. And if you read Judges, you'll see Israel wavering back and forth. It's unbelievable. So verse 9 and 10.
And the servant put his hand under the thigh of his master Abram, and swore to him concerning this matter. And the servant took 10 camels of his master's camels, and he took of all the goods of his master with him, and he arose and went into Mesopotamia to the city of Nahor.
The journey, off you go. The servant swore by Yahuwah Elohim to his master, confirming that he would follow every instruction. If not, he has consequences to pay from Yahuwah Elohim. He is under a binding agreement until all the conditions have been met. To show that Isaac can provide for this woman, if she decides to become his wife, their substance had to be on display. Off he went to fulfill this important mission, to tie up an important loose end. He is off to Mesopotamia, to the city of Nahor. How big and important Nahor, Abraham's brother, had become to have this city attributed to his name. He may not have been a slouch all the days of his life. Thus the importance of providing or proving that they are also people of worth, and the daughter would fare well under their tents. It also goes to show that his brother's house is established and fixed. For Abraham, it's still a work in progress, as many elements of the promise must be established for his city and nation to be permanently affixed. So here we see the camels going off. They are going to show that Isaac can provide for this woman once she decides to become his wife. Verse 11-14.
And he rested his camels without the city by the well of water towards evening, when damsels go forth to draw water. And he said, O Yahuwah, Elohim of my master Abraham, prosper my way before me today, and deal mercifully with my master Abraham. Lo, I stand by the well of water, and the daughters of them that inhabit the city come forth to draw water. And it shall be the virgin to whomsoever I shall say, Incline your water pot, that I may drink. And she shall say, Drink you, and I will give your camels drink until they shall have done drinking. Even this one you have prepared for your servant Isaac. And hereby shall I know that you have dealt mercifully with my master Abraham.
The prayer, asking for favor in your endeavors. Abraham's servant was wise enough to know how to execute the desire of his master. Understand the customs, he positioned himself at a location to make careful observations. Once he got the camels to settle themselves, showing off the goods of his master, he did something that we should all, in bold and red, take pattern from. He prayed to the Elohim of his master, asking that his plan prosper. His prayer is specific to the mission and intended to filter out all of the undesirable women to make a selection from. He's not looking for a situation like King Ahasuerus, having a long drawn-out process to select his queen. He is looking for Yahuwah's favor in making the right selection. The specifics he is asking is to show how the character of the woman is in making the selection for his master's son. A woman who would be a complement, especially at this moment in Isaac's life, with his mother having a great influence over his life.
And I just want to allude to something there about that we should all take pattern from. We have to also look at the context of that. This isn't some name it and claim it thing. This is about we're walking in obedience to the Most High's will, and we're asking for favor for that, because it is the Most High's will for Isaac to have a wife. And that's Abraham's desire too in this whole oath that he made with his servant. So that's the context.
And we are not planting seeds to get $1 million back.
So that's not what this is about.
Yep. 15 to 17.
And it came to pass before he had done speaking in his mind that, behold, Rebekah, the daughter of Bethuel, the son of Milcah, the wife of Nahor, and the brother of Abraham, came forth, having a water pot on her shoulders. And the virgin was very beautiful in appearance. She was a virgin. A man had not known her. And she went down to the well and filled her water pot and came up. And the servant ran up to meet her and said, Give me a little water to drink out of your pitcher.
Rebecca, prayer answered. Is she the one? Before the prayer was completed, whether out loud in the Masoretic or in his mind in the Septuagint, there should be a decorum in how we approach prayer to Yahuwah Elohim. A woman of fair countenance came out to the well to fetch water. To validate if she was the one, he put his request to Yahuwah Elohim. He put his request to Yahuwah Elohim to the test by approaching the young woman asking for water from her pitcher. It is important to note and to reiterate that this fair woman is connected to Abraham in many ways. So this is the family tree that we have been also building. And as you can see, Nahor married Milcah, who is the daughter of Haran, his brother. Let's not get into the complexities of family unions, but it is what it is. So it's a whole family affair that's taking place here. So the descriptive identities of Rebekah's family to her mother is an indication that Abraham's brother had more than one wife. And that's a whole other discussion. Also to highlight the connection back to his other brother Haran who died. So it's keeping things in the family more or less. So verse 18 to 20.
And she said, Drink, sir. And she hasted and let down the pitcher upon her arm and gave him to drink till he ceased drinking. And she said, I will also draw water for your camels till they all shall have drunk. And she hasted and emptied the water pot into the trough and ran to the well to draw again and drew water for all the camels. That's a lot of work.
Yeah, lots of work. So drink up and be satisfied. So this is the well. Everything to the word of his prayer. Rebekah, the potential wife of Isaac, is being carefully observed to see if she makes Yahuwah's Elohim's cut. She shows respect to Abraham's servant and gives him water from the pitcher to drink. He drank until he was satisfied, and then proceeded to do the same for his camels. Camels fully loaded with a sample of the substance Abraham was blessed with from Yahuwah Elohim. So the camels are there fully loaded for everyone to see. She completed the task until every camel was satisfied.
I'm sure it was pretty intriguing to have all those camels show up.
Of course,
So,
it's a big caravan.
How much water can a camel drink? A camel's hump stores fat, not water, as he eats and drinks. He builds hump fat reserves that sustain him through lean times. A camel's water intake varies according to his environment, his exertion level, and the amount of fat in his hump. A thirsty camel can drink more than 30 gallons of water in less than 15 minutes. Wow.
Lots of water. With 10 camels in Abraham's servant caravan, that's a lot of water for Rebekah to fetch at that time. At that time of the day before the sun sets in the evening sky. Then to perform the task of fetching water for her household needs as well. It was an extra chore for the time of the day she took on the extended duty. Also, it was enough time to occasionally glance at the loads the camel were hauling over the desert. So I'm sure she was doing two things, not just filling water for the camels, but inspecting the goods that's laid on top of the camels. Verse 21 to 23.
Then the man took great notice of her and remained silent to know whether the Yahweh had made his way prosperous or not. And it came to pass when all the camels ceased drinking, that the man took gold earrings, each of a drachm weight, and he put 2 bracelets on her hands. Their weight was 10 pieces of gold, and he asked her and said, Whose daughter are you? Tell me if there is room for us to lodge with your father.
This is the one. Careful observation and being bold. Turn. With a fruit cake probably in
You
hand,
need to explain that.
or he's carefully observing?
No,
What?
I'm talking about the fruit cake.
Oh, well, I don't think Abraham's servant would be just there standing. I assure you he'd have something in his hand also eating, and probably a fruit cake, literal fruits, dried in the form of a cake.
How come you didn't give me a fruit cake?
I don't have apricots and
You
dates.
don't have camels either.
No,
so.
and I don't have camels.
Yeah.
No. So with a fruit cake probably in hand, Abraham's trusted servant is looking on, observing every move of Rebekah, ensuring that she meets the criteria of his prayer to the Elohim of his master. As previously mentioned, this task for Rebekah would take quite some time, and equally enough time for the trusted servant to observe, so it did two missions in one. It is not a bad idea to sit still and wait for Yahweh Elohim to act on your behalf after you consult with him on the matter. A lesson for us all.
Once all the camels had their fill, Abraham's servant brought out the bling. Heavy in weight, it was for her as part of the wedding offer. These golden items could have been Sarah's and given to him as part of the bridal package for the chosen damsel. He placed them upon her without first seeking permission from the damsel's parental authority. By today's standards, that might be considered sexual harassment or even worse. Further, the customs of Western marriage are not the same as in the Far East.
And this is wedding and marriage traditions in ancient Israel.
Marriage in ancient Israel was very different from marriage today. Although there is a great deal we do not know about Israelite marriage, the biblical texts that speak about it tell us that many Israelite marriage customs were unlike those of modern Western societies. First, although girls were expected to be virgins when they got married, and according to Deuteronomy 22:21, could even be put to death if they were found not to be, men were allowed to marry multiple women. It's hard to know how common polygamy, which entailed a husband being married to more than one woman, really was in ancient Israel. Also, the evidence suggests that compared to women, men had more control over whom they married. For example, Samson chooses his own wife in Judges 14, even though his parents disapprove of the match. Most likely girls were married around puberty, whereas men were somewhat older. Though unions were generally based more on economic or social considerations than romantic ones, some texts, including the Song of Songs, shows us that ideas of passion and sexual love were also present in ancient Israel.
So see how the headline story dovetails into...
And a lot of this is really hard for us to relate to.
Yeah. Far away from that, remove generations from that culture. But he is observing carefully with his beady eyes. Continuing. This is the one, careful observation and being bold. After handing over the bling, he inquires about Rebekah's state of affairs and if there is room at her home to accommodate him, the camels, and also the stuff that he brought to prove to her parents that his master's son was all the effort. Hospitality is a key element of the culture, and Abraham's servant wants to be in a place that is inviting and safe to lay up along with the goods he was carrying. Those goods were expensive goods. You don't want anything to happen to it.
Though not mentioned regularly in the scriptures, along these routes, bandits are waiting to relieve wayfarers of their goods. This is typified in the parable of the Good Samaritan.
Luke 10:28-30. And before Davene reads, the Good Samaritan is more than just about a Samaritan. It's very loaded.
And he said unto him, You have answered right. This do, and you shall live. But he, willing to justify himself, said unto Yeshua, And who is my neighbor? And Yeshua answered, said, A certain man went down from Jerusalem to Jericho, and fell among thieves, which stripped him of his raiment, and wounded him, and departed, leaving him half dead.
So to give you context to this, the Samaritan is let's say a pretend person. If you go back in Kings, you'll get the whole narrative about the Samaritans, hence using the Samaritan Pentateuch sometimes to get some insight into passages of scripture. So the whole gist of the story is, we know that a priest, a Levite, and then the Samaritan came by. The priest and the Levite supposed to be well versed in the Torah, and they were supposed to show hospitality to the guy who got robbed. But instead of they do that, they went on their merry way and left the man to die. The Samaritan, who's supposed to be a pretender, comes along and executed the exact letter of the Torah as it should have been done. So the moral of the story is not just about the bandits, but it's about executing the law, and even a stranger knows better than Israel sometimes.
Yeah.
An angel of Yahweh prospered. The angel of Yahweh prospered his way, and no bandit dare attack him on the journey each day. Too much rhyming. Also, once under the roof of Abraham's family, they now become responsible for his safety. Additionally, a place to discuss big people business, as we would say, under the authority of a father as he inquires of her about him indirectly. So we know that he made an inquiry about her father's house. So verse 24 to 27.
And she said to him, I am the daughter of Bethuel, the son of Milcah, whom she bore to Nahor. And she said to him, We have both straw and much provender, and a place for resting. And the man, being well pleased, worshipped Yahweh, and said, Blessed be Yahweh, the Elohim of my master Abraham, who has not suffered his righteousness to fail, nor his truth from my master. And Yahweh has brought me prosperously to the house of the brother of my Lord. Excuse me, my master.
The blessing gives thanks to Yahuwah. Rebekah confirmed the identity to Abraham's servant, and also indicated that her house was able to accommodate him and his caravan of 10 camels, and he also had servants with him as well. He then proceeded to thank Yahuwah Elohim for making his mission prosperous up to this point. He also did something in giving thanks to Yah. He blessed him. Question: what does it mean to bless God?
Answer: we are familiar with Elohim's blessings upon us, but what does it mean for us to bless the Lord or bless Yahweh? The phrases bless Yahweh and bless Elohim are found primarily in the Old Testament. The Psalms especially are filled with the psalmist's blessings upon Elohim. The King James Version uses bless the Lord many times, but the more modern translations render it praise Yahweh or praise the Lord. The Hebrew word translated bless or praise means literally to kneel, the implication being to kneel in worship.
And here's another piece here. This one is very long, and I'll advise people to read it once the link is put up. So, I will bless the Lord at all times. Bless God in the Old Testament.
This practice of people blessing God is also attested in the Jewish Apocrypha. In the New Testament, as found in the writings of Luke, Paul, James, Peter, and John, and in later Jewish liturgical texts. So, for example, James, in speaking of people's mouths and tongues, wrote, "Therewith bless Elohim." I don't know if I said that right. We God, even the Father. James 3:9. But what does it mean to bless God? Since the word bless is generally defined as bestowing divine favor or assistance on someone or something, the very notion that a human can bless God may seem inconceivable. The purpose of this prayer is to explicate what this practice of blessing God consisted of among ancient Israelites, as reflected in the Old Testament, and to determine if it has any relevance for our worship of God in modern times.
And it still does, but continuing, what does it mean to bless God?
Go ahead.
These and other biblical passages confront us with the questions. What did it mean to the Israelites to bless Jehovah, their God? And more fundamentally, how can humans possibly, quote, bless God in the sense of bestowing a beneficial gift of power on him? Keyword is here how they use his name, even though it's another variation. I'm happy with that. Some earlier biblical scholars thought such biblical passage as those quoted above represented a belief in the magical power of pronouncing words of blessing, that humans could thereby transfer power to God and thus increase his ability to bless others. However, as the academic understanding of ancient religion has further developed, such perceptions are no longer viewed as tenable. Unfortunately, this is still happening. The realization that humans cannot bless God in the way that he blesses humans invites us to analyze what is intended in biblical passage in which people, in quotes, bless God. For some time now, many scholars have suggested that help in understanding the intent of these expressions is available in the Old Testament itself.
I would also add to that maybe sort of bringing it home a little bit, because a lot of people think that when they're worshiping God that they're going to get something back for doing that. That's also kind of the Like, they're thinking he's going to have superpowers towards them because they're worshiping him. And that's not correct. We're to worship him because of who he is, because he is to be worshipped. So
a lot of weird stuff crawled into the belief, and now it's become part of the nomenclature of worship and religion, unfortunately. As discussed previously with the pictographical interpretation of blessing, it is a two-way process of giving and receiving. The servant receive Yahuwah's favor, and is returning praise to him for a successful mission, and answers his prayer exact to the period. Yeah. Not leaving out the part where Abraham's servant worship Yahuwah. What does it mean to worship Yahuwah? This topic would be discussed in part 2. So there are two things that happen. He blessed and he worshipped. So in the next Bible study, we'll look at what it means to worship.
And there are some big distinctions.
Yep.
Different than what we've been taught in religion.
So we are in verse 28 and 29.
And the damsel ran and reported to the house of her mother according to these words. And Rebekah had a brother whose name was Laban. And Laban ran out to meet the man to the well.
Laban. The report, carrying the news by the feet of a damsel. Excitement filled the soul of Rebekah. She may have hastily ran to let her parents know that the good news about the stranger whom she showed hospitality to, not forgetting the bling that she was given as a token in hand with the goods that have been loaded on the 10 camels as part of the announcement to her father's household. So the camels being loaded, the bling, everything is working together to carry a good report to the household. This was not by accident. So much so that her news and evidence of it, again, her brother saw the bling. You know what we get when we see bling? Yep. Caused her brother Laban to maybe stop what he was doing at home and hastily meet the stranger at the well. If you have bling, you may have more bling. That's what he may have been thinking. Who knows? We'll look at that further. Remember, it was at the time of day when the occupants of the house would be ending the day's activities and putting things in place for the following day. What a story Rebekah would have retold. And the bling to make her brother emerge and to take charge of the situation. So Rebekah, it means ensnare, which I was very surprised to.
Ensnare with her beauty?
Maybe.
I don't know. From an unused root, probably meaning to clog by tying up the fetlock. What the heck is a fetlock?
I have no clue.
Fettering by beauty. Okay, so fettering by beauty. Ribkah, the wife of Isaac, Rebekah. Can you say that in the mic?
Fetlock is the hair of a horse's hooves right behind the hoof.
Yay!
Okay.
Excellent.
Fetlock, I learned something. Wow.
And Laban, which I always knew, it means white. So that was not a surprise to me, but Rebekah was. So the epic saga continues. The story ends here tonight. So you'll have to be back for part 2, where we'll be talking about more bling and so many other wonderful things that would keep you intrigued to come and sing and listen in. So we have finished the first part, the beloved wife. So any questions or comments before we close this tongue for the night?
Anyone?
Well, we got one comment about fetlock.
Yes, that was great. Are you going to pray?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
So our Father, our King, we thank you for another night where we got into your word to learn about your ways and your truth. And we ask that you guide us in everything that we do. Help us to always seek your truth and to do what is right before you each and every day. As our study about to end, guide those who are here home safely so that they will be a part of it the next time around we sit to look into your word. And we ask all of this in your name, through Yeshua. Amen.
Amen.